U.S. border cities bracing for the end of Title 42 next month as sources claim up to 40,000 migrants are waiting at the Mexican side of the border to cross into the U.S.
Our next guest, a Democrat, says he hasn't heard from the White House about the border crisis in his own state.
Texas Congressman Henry Cuellar joins us now. Congressman, thank you very much for being here. Staggering.
Good morning to you all.
Good morning to you. It's always staggering, and this is yet another staggering number with very significant human implications, and you're hearing nothing. What is the administration doing, if anything?
Well, look, it's true. I haven't talked to the White House about this, but I have been talking to the Homeland Secretary, to the Homeland Security officials, to make sure that there's something in place. And there's a couple things coming up. As you know, they reached an agreement with Panama, Colombia, to make sure that we stop folks coming in from the Darien Gap down there in the southern part of Central America. Number two, there are asylum officers. They're being tested right now so they can expedite, and either they make a determination that somebody stays or goes back. So that will be a lot faster than the immigration judges. And finally, the third thing is there's a rule that will come in that would basically say that if somebody comes in between ports of entry, they will be returned, and make sure that they do it the right way and ask through a port of entry or through an app. We've got to have consequences. If there's no consequences, it doesn't work.
Yeah, Congressman, I want to ask you as well about these leaked documents that came out this week from the Air National Guardsman who's now been arrested. I don't think this is completely distinct from our conversation over illegal immigration. It's actually tied in many ways, and that is the revelation of how Russia and China are so intricately involved in projects in Latin America and the Caribbean. We know about the relationships between China and, for example, Brazil. I believe in these documents they were talking about, was it in Honduras? Mm-hmm. A port in Honduras that both Russia and China were coordinating on. What was your takeaway when you see not just the impact on illegal immigration, but on our national security?
You know, this is one thing that I've been talking about for many years, that we need to pay attention to what's happening in our own backyard, Mexico, Central America, Latin America in general, because especially the Chinese, the Iranians and the Russians in certain countries, but especially the Chinese, they have ports of entry. They have ports. They're doing a lot of work. In fact, I'll be happy to share later on some maps that show you the intensive work that the Chinese are doing right across the border here in the U.S. There are certain activities where now it says made in Mexico, but really made in China. The Chinese are coming in and moving into areas, to industrial parks, very, very close to our own border. So I'll be happy to share this at a later time with you. But once I show you this, it's going to be incredible what's been happening. I've been looking at this for many years, and I'm glad that you're bringing this up at this time.
Well, in many ways, Congressman, it's been predictable. I mean, you think about Brazil. There was a recent election. The Biden administration was cheering on for Lula to win, the leftist who has now aligned himself with China. If not, some people say potentially interfering with that election. But let's just say they were just cheering on that election. And yet they had to know that Lula would align with China and that would be bad for America. What the heck is going on with the Biden State Department and with the Biden administration in general? They're practically handing Latin America over on a silver platter and to China, and China's gobbling up resources and interfering with this hemisphere.
You know, the Chinese are almost in every country in Latin America. And what's happening is you're looking at leftist leaders being elected. I mean, look what happened to Colombia. Colombia used to be one of our strongest allies, and we're seeing that they're going left. And there's so many countries. So we need to pay attention, like you all are saying. We need to pay attention to what's happening in our own backyard, because we're going to wake up one of these days and realize how close the Chinese and other adversaries are right across the river.
But with all due respect, in the case of Brazil, because I think Brazil is probably the most important country in terms of its economy to Latin America, Bolsonaro, yes, was friends with Donald Trump, which I'm sure had a lot to do with why Biden didn't want to support him in that election or show some support for him. The other guy, it seems like they care more about LGBTQ, abortion, and green agenda than national security and commerce in Latin America.
You know, what we need to focus on is have a practical view of Latin America. You know, they might not be perfect. They might not agree with us and everything, but we need to look at what's practical for us down there, almost like a Henry Kissinger type of viewpoint, the practical view of how we make those working relationships. Because you're right. I mean, look, Brazil's the largest economy down there. Then you got Mexico. And if we start losing those to other countries, and China will come in, and well, they're there already.
They're there.
And you know, it's going to really have an impact. Like I say, we're going to wake up one of these days, and we're going to realize how close our adversaries are to us.
It's a great point, because that's what the Chinese are doing, a practical approach to these countries. What do you need? How can we deliver it? And oh, by the way, now you owe us or you're in debt to us. And they leverage that in the future. Congressman Cuellar, thank you so much for your time.